Well, let me put it this way. All energy in the universe is expressed in motion. All motion is expressed in waves. All waves are curves. So where does the straight lines come from to make the platonic solids? There are no straight lines. So when I took the flower of life and opened it properly, I found a whole new wave conjugations that expose the in-between spaces. It's the thing that holds us all together.
I didn't do too well in trigonometry. What is the
platonic solids?
He lost me at opening the flower. Opening the flower properly? It sounds like some weird ritual for virgin girls. Sounds like serial killer language. Look, I've watched this guy in some older movies, and the one thing I took away from him, he's very good looking, and he's still very good looking. Like, he hasn't aged at all, like barely. Based on what I remember about those older movies in my back catalog, he was always that suave person, but I don't know what he's been doing since then. I assume he's probably been acting or finding himself, it seems. Now, I'm not a mathematician, so this stuff is going right over my head, but I definitely know that 1 times 1 doesn't equal 2.
Okay, we're not doing science by revelation. I have a question about this. Could you imagine that one day far in the future we encounter some alien civilization and they say, hey, show us what you've done to understand the universe. We bring out our math books with all our theorems and physics, and they turn around and say, math? We tried that. It takes it just so far. And the real way to do it is like this.
I would say that whatever that real way is, it's not manifest to us at this moment. And until that day happens, when an alien tells us how backwards we are, all I can say is that the math that we did invent out of our human brain, as you surely know, Eugene Wigner said, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in describing the universe, the fact that it works at all is sufficient enough for me.
There's a reason why mathematics is a universal language. So somebody getting up one day and deciding that they're going to pretend that the universal math doesn't apply to them doesn't make it so. It says a lot about someone when they make up a new math on the spot without any peer review and name it after themselves. What would be even funnier is if many years in the future, aliens touch down on our planet and reveal to us that this dude was right all along and he was one of them. Imagine applying his math and then we start making time machines and stuff because we were wrong all this time. Up is actually down and down is actually up. I mean, I can't even really blame him for feeling this way because, I mean, look at our society. Everything is backwards. Criminals are now innocent, and if you, as an innocent civilian, try to defend yourself from a criminal, you are now a criminal and the criminal gets sympathy. Cops are fired for doing their job and putting away criminals. People are encouraged to commit crime. People who spend their whole lives busting their asses to be good civilians, pay their taxes, and put money in the economy are treated like shit by the government. But people who don't do any of that and mooch off the system, as well as off of all the people that are here working hard, get to live in hotels and are treated like royalty by being put up in hotels, given money and jobs they didn't necessarily earn. So why is everyone pretending as though they're outraged that Terry is speaking this way? I can't really blame anybody in this day and age for becoming totally and utterly confused because real life just doesn't feel like real life anymore. Maybe this is his way of dealing with it.
And when I was at Oxford, now this is the point where 4 bubbles meet equally and oppositely. Yes, and it's where 12 planes meet. This is an undiscovered geometry that I'm now making known to the world here on the show.
Isn't that fantastic?
Well, when I was at Oxford, they were so upset because how can a man that didn't graduate from one of their prestigious schools come and tell them that the square root of 2 was a rational number? And I said, I didn't come to tell you guys this. I just came to prove to you that it's a rational number, and they didn't like it.
I don't know if getting applause from the people at The View is a flex that you think it is. I mean, there's some of the stupidest people on mainstream television, so it's not like it takes a lot to impress them. I don't know why, but I can totally see him becoming a cult leader. I mean, he's handsome, and then when he speaks to stupid people and rattles their brains because they can't understand more than 2 words, their crotches just shake together like tectonic plates and generate lakes upon lakes of human moisture until they're drowning in their own confusion at his delusion.
He says it's not true that if you have $1 times $1, you get $1. And he's correct. $1 times $1 doesn't equal $1. However, okay, let me say it like this. $5 times $1 does not equal $5. But 5 times $1 equals $5. If you have 2 apples and someone multiplies your apples by 3, then you have 6 apples. But if you have 2 apples and someone multiplies your apples by 3 apples, you have WTF amount of apples. Like,
This is what I'm talking about. People who have macaroni and cheese for brains will hear stuff like this, and then whatever brain tissue they have just begins coagulating. What I don't get is how people will hear logic and defy it with every ounce of their being, but when someone speaks their language, which is stupid, they open up their mouth to allow the idiot whisperer to chuck a pole straight into it. No questions asked. They can't even repeat what the person is saying. It's like baby birds being fed grapes larger than their heads by their inexperienced mothers, only to end up choking on it afterwards. And the mothers themselves don't even know how to remove the grape out of the baby's head once it gets lodged in their spaghetti noodle-sized naked necks. So they're freaking choking on that, John, while saying how hungry they are, not realizing that they're dying due to lack of oxygen. Some people speculate this might just be some cry for attention. He knows if he comes out and says something as stupid as possible, people just latch onto this and choose to believe anything other than reality, and he gets attention for it, and some people might even have the motivation to follow him. Either way, he gets attention. But honestly, that would be very smart on his part, and he would make a great addition to politics, to be honest. However, it's also possible that he's just a narcissist, and because he couldn't make it all the way, he has to do something to put himself above everybody else. Why does he have to follow society's rules? He'll just make up his own because his makes more sense than everybody else's anyway. Now, the person who can explain this in the layest of layman terms the best, especially in terms of the multiplication issue that everyone's talking about, is Professor Dave Explains.
Yes. In trying to solve this equation to find the value of d, the value of 1 times 1 was taken to be 1. But what of the unit that I previously called length? The product of a unit length with another unit length must have the given area. Correct? A choice was made, and then taken to be arbitrary. This cannot be farther from the truth. So let's see what's happening here. Now, we help us use modern language. Then that credit should be given to the great Herman Grassman. This then worked to clarify the assumptions and language of the physicist of his day. It's plus x, which is equal to 2 times x. Such equations are natural, and our investigations of the cosmos will dissipate, so long as we project this archaic system upon it. Ultimately, what's being said, and we'll check with our calculators and smartphones and computers in just a moment, just to see if this is really true. Based on this simple algebra, the square root of 2, when cubed, will have the same exact value as the square root of 2 times 2. Now, you show me one place in the history of existence where an individual number, the square root of a given number, multiplied by 2 has the same value as that number cubed. And then if you divide by 2, the square root of 2 cubed, you divide that by 2, cube again, and divide by 2, and cube again. I did that one 216 times, about 216 times, know what I came up to? Half of the square root of 2, which is 1.414, 1.35, 6, 2, 3, 7, 3, 0, 9, 5. And I cubed that, I got 228, 427, 121, 74, 60, 190. The 216 times I did that cycle. Now, in that number, from 2.1 to 1.9, above 2 or below 2 by the 7th cycle, I was already at an exponentially high number, so high that the computer could no longer show me its digits. Or if it was below 2 at 1.9999, I was already at an exponentially low number that the computer screen no longer could carry. But this square root of 2, cubed and multiplied by 2, continues to stay the same no matter what condition is specified. That is a loop, that is a natural number. It does not allow for the expansion and contraction of the universe. It is a mathematical fallacy. And unfortunately, most of quantum physics and quantum mechanics have their basis, their foundation rested in this number. I think it's time to do an audit. Thank you.
I understand this is why people can't take Terrence Howard seriously. Even if he did have an ounce of credibility with something he's saying, it's hard to see anything of any value in what he's saying when he gets something universally foundational so epically wrong. And let's just say he has an open mind, and I will give him that he is brave to present what he thinks are his findings, to try and challenge what he believes is wrong. But when you have conflicting logical arguments with spiritual superstition, you can't blame people for writing you off.
What Da Vinci tried to do at 80, I did at 6 years old because I had been working on it perhaps from a past life. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm crazy or there's reincarnation or anything, but we know that energy does not die. Energy just reboots itself and reboots itself. So we are eternal, so stop panicking, thinking your life is over. You've done this trillions of times.
Amidst the flickering candlelight, Terrence Howard's confessions pierced the darkness.
Let's review what multiplication is. Multiplication is an elementary arithmetic operation, which is essentially repeated addition. 1 times 4 literally means the number 1 4 times, and then you add them up. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. 1 times 3, write 1 3 times, add them up, you get 3. 1 times 2, 1 twice, 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 times 1 means you write 1 1 times, so it's 1. There's nothing to add. His revolutionary discovery is just him being dumber than a toddler, and toddlers do like to shake things, so this lady isn't wrong.
Well, you're a shaker-upper.
Now, the bigger discussion in all of this is him having a platform, which people like to always leap to. Why does he have a platform? I believe he 100% should have a platform and should be allowed to say these things. Just like the people who believe in multiple ideologies, even when they're void of any scientific soundness or logic, are able to have their own platforms. Why? Because if we didn't have people saying the most outlandish things, we wouldn't have an opportunity to debunk them or to properly have a discussion where we either prove them wrong or are proved wrong ourselves. Do you know that many people still believe the myth that if you suck venom out of someone who has had a snake bite, that they will have a better chance of survival or live through it? And not enough people talk about this, but it's still perpetuated.
Severe, and he didn't need antivenom to survive. But dozens of people in Georgia every year do, and the cost of survival is astronomical. Coming up at 6, why it could cost you 6 figures to get antivenom in Georgia.
I'm looking into getting a children's python because I absolutely bonded with one at the reptile expo today. There I met with the managers, and one of them said she was a child when a 19-year-old counselor slit her knee after she was bitten by a venomous snake because he believed he was saving her life. Now, I don't blame the guy for this because he legitimately believed he was doing the right thing. That woman still has that very big odious scar on her leg today. Now, back in her time, I imagine not a lot of people talked about this, or it was only through word of mouth in very small communities, but it's just something that I guess perpetuated because someone heard it from somebody else who heard it from somebody else. However, today people were to come online and tell people that this is how you save people, and you gotta slit a big old gash down the knee or at the part where the bite is. If, God forbid, if it's your wrist, you gotta put a big old slash right there. There'd be people coming out and debating with this person. It would force other people to find proof and do experiment, which is not a bad thing because it leads us to progress in medicinal advances. advancement. Someone had to make mistakes for these things to happen. However, if we shut these people up, they will continue believing it, and they will interact with other people who don't know any better, and the idea will still perpetuate, maybe even more so because they're not allowed to say it. If they tell people, see, they're trying to shut me up because they don't want me telling the truth, and the gullible people see the proof of this happening, people are more inclined to believe the person who's being censored because people at their core don't like to be censored or told that they cannot access something or ask something or get certain information. And you know what this does? It makes them more curious and more likely to follow that thing or that creed that's being censored. People like feeling persecuted and like living on the fringe or feeling as though they can get access to something very little people know and be the one responsible for giving people that information. So when people see someone being persecuted, silenced, shamed, or when the authorities are turning the masses against them, no matter how radical they seem, the populace naturally become more interested in listening to that person. They believe this person has information that is being censored or hidden from them. Their curiosity ignites because they want to know what is so offensive or frightening that access to it is restricted. And the more restricted it is the more repressed they feel and the more they seek after that specific thing. That's why I think it's important to allow these voices to be heard. While it's true that some people might become radicalized, it's ultimately up to the individuals to decide what they choose to believe or follow. We can't provide the evidence and demonstrate through math and science that fringe individuals are spreading misinformation if we don't let that information come to light. And then, what if they are right? Or what if they have some elements of truth to them? We should still be allowed to discuss it as people. Because you're never going to stop that information from getting out there, by the way. It's still going to exist. But now you can't control it or debate it, and it's not out in the open for anyone else to see. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have something out in the open where I can keep an eye on it and be aware of it rather than letting these fringe groups gather and spread their nonsense like wildfire because nobody's paying attention. And the thing is, if you don't allow it to spread, when somebody does come upon it later or they target children or gullible people, there's nothing out there for them to look at and see people debunking it, so they're just going to probably naturally believe it, where otherwise it would be widespread knowledge. Then years later, this ideology suddenly catches on, spreads like the plague, and everyone is left scratching their heads wondering, oh my god, where did this come from? Where did all these flat earthers come from? Why is everyone believing this? Like, it just came out of nowhere. Well, it kept growing because you censored it. Censoring only lets things like this fester unchecked. I'm glad Terrence Howard was given a platform so we can blow the lid off of his nonsense, or at least debate what he's saying. I mean, it's a great teaching moment, like on Professor Dave Explains, for people to learn about stuff they wouldn't have cared about otherwise.
That's how I invented tangential flight, because you're mad. Someone programmed that lie in there and lied to you and everyone, and all your fundamentals are off.
Well, certainly now. I mean, I don't even know what to think.
You heard, that I said 1 + 1 = 2.
You know what just happened?
You heard that I said.
I was bad at math. I was horrible at it.
Both of y'all had heard that I said 1 × 1 = 2, didn't you? You had heard it somewhere. Somebody.
Yeah, I heard it.
And then everybody said I was crazy.
Yeah, they did say that.
Well, am I crazy or is the calculator broke?
What the f? I mean, are those my only 2 options?
What do you think? What do you think? Or am I right? Or am I right?
I don't know.
Am I right?
I don't know.
You just did the calculation.
You
just did the calculation. Both of y'all did.
Terrence, look, I don't know what you thought you signed up for coming in here.
It would be so hilarious if this was all a ploy by Terrence to get people interested in chemistry and math. Like, what if he knew he was talking complete crap, but figured it would cause such a viral stir that people would come out of the woodwork to teach the right stuff to people and get them interested? Like, if he's passionate about chemistry and math, and he knows by being utterly wrong, people unmask, debate, and debunk his theories, then he's won. Stupid people who weren't interested in this are going to tune into the right explanations, making it a genius way to get people more interested in math and chemistry where they otherwise would have forgotten all about it. I mean, either way you look at it, it's a win-win. If he hadn't been given a platform to say these things, we wouldn't have that now, would we? The Terriology thing goes a lot deeper than you think, by the way, and it sounds like a guy who's operating on a grand illusion or delusion or extreme narcissism. Either way, now we all have math on the brain. And at the very least, we got some swell entertainment.